Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. Let's get right into some space weather news. Right now, our solar wind speeds are coming in approximately around 410.9 kilometers per second with a density of 4.3. Let's take a look at AR 2759. That is sunspot number 12 so far. It does look like it's holding steady as it's turning towards Earth facing. So far for the year of 2020, we've had 70 days without sunspots. That's 76% of the year that has gone spotless thus far. Our TCI, it's up to 3.90. Well, actually, that's not too bad considering that we were at 3.81 just on Monday, and we had solar wind speeds above 500 bombarding the magnetic field of our Earth, and that heating up the upper atmosphere, I believe the very top anyway, just slightly enough to raise those temperatures, the TSI. It seems like every time we get solar wind above 450 or higher, we see the TCI increase just by a little bit. Not a lot though, we're still cold. KP indices coming in right now at a 2, and the 24-hour max coming in at a 4. Let's go over to the grandsolarminimum.com and check out some more space weather stats here. Solar X-ray flux, not much happening. A little bit of activity, but nothing crazy here. And there we go. All right, so let's take a look. There's that sunspot that is going to be with us just for a little bit. We do have another active region that looks apparently like it could be a possibility for another sunspot. This is also, by the way, just want to let you know, this one right here, that is a member of solar cycle 25, and then we're going to watch that next. So if this one fades out by the time it gets to the western limb, this one should be piercing the eastern limb at that time. A slight possibility that there could be 2 sunspots on our sun right now, but right now we are just focusing on this small one. Again, it's only sunspot number 12, nothing major. Now, there is a coronal hole that is Earth-facing, and there it is right there, folks. Let me move this over a little bit for you. So with our KP indices at a 2 and a 4, I'm not going to rule out the chance for a strong earthquake anyway, even though usually the KP indices are not where I would like them to be for that kind of a forecast, but given the fact that we had some movement out in Idaho with the 6.5, 5.0 in Texas, the minor earthquakes, we had one in Oklahoma City. Also, I believe Mari told me we had one right on the edge of the New Madrid fault near Tennessee. Is that true? The 1.0?
One really tiny one.
Tiny one out there. So we're kind of on a watch. Conditions are kind of favorable for something kind of big to hit. Definitely going to watch the East Coast and possibly even the Northeast or on the Canadian side of things as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and check out a couple articles. First, I want to go over the UAH March 2020 that came in at 0.48. And here's why. And today I took a little time to write a little opinion here. The numbers are in and temperatures dropped from 0.76 to 0.48, March 2020. That was the 12th largest drop in the tropospheric temperature out of the 495 months of satellite record. In comparison, we've seen this before. Now, before you go on and think that the shutdown worldwide was enough to drop in CO2 to contribute, I'd like to point out a few things. First, let's address this. This has happened before. Late 2019 into 2020, we started to see a rise in temperatures. Now, mind you, we experienced a weak to moderate El Nino that has a factor in this as well. Warmer ocean temps will also result in warmer surface temps. If you remember, back in 2015, we also had a moderate to strong El Nino that led to warmer temps from December 15 through April of 2016. And I list off the temperatures here. For December was a 0.47, then we rose to 0.56 in January, 0.86 in February, 0.77 in March, 0.73 in April, and then finally dropping down to 0.54 into May, and then in June, seeing the temperatures plummet all the way to 0.34. Now let's compare to this past December through March. I know we're on limited data, but there's a point to this. Now, December came in at 0.56. January was slightly up at 0.57. And then February, we got the big peak at 0.76. And March, well, I kind of said that I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the 0.6s or close to 0.7, but it fell quite a bit, 0.48 Celsius. Now, this past El Nino was weaker, and that is the reason we didn't see these 2019-2020 values as high and as long as we saw it after the El Nino in 2015. Also, you have to figure that the Earth's tilt was its closest point to the sun on January 5th, 2020, and has pulled away since then. The stronger El Nino in 2015 gave us a higher values for a longer period of time. There's a clear pattern here to compare, and I'd say that history repeats itself. At this point, we should see cooler temps in the months to come, as I will be checking back with this theory as well next month. Second, there will be an argument about the lack of CO2 that had a hand in this. As you can see, CO2 came in a little over at 412 parts per million in February 2020. How do you explain what happened in February of 16th, where the UAH came in at 0.86? CO2 levels were over the 405 parts per million range in February of 2016, but yet lower CO2 but lower than the CO2 that was in February of 2020. So how is it logic to say that CO2 rise causes temperatures to rise when CO2 was lower in 2016 but warmer than it was in February of 2020 with CO2 levels higher? The answer, CO2 rise does not cause a rise in temperatures. Dr. Roy Spencer also concludes that lack of air travel could have a hand in this as well, but nonetheless, CO2 levels are at a 415 parts per million as of March 31st. And if you click on the number there, it'll take you right to the source where I got that number from. Even after several countries shut down due to COVID-19, remains higher, that is CO2, and we are cooling. When I first heard the temperature drop, Mari actually alerted me today, and I sat there and thought about, like, wow, how are we? The first question that's going to come out is, well, look at that. We shut down the world, and there's not as much CO2 in the atmosphere, and now the temperature dropped like a rock. Well, maybe a small portion, maybe a 0.003 Celsius is what dropped from the lack of CO2 that we've had here in the past several weeks. So I thought about it long and hard, and I remember a good friend of ours, Facebook follower as well, Scott Rose, and actually I'll go over something that Mari posted on our website today. But I started thinking about, that he's the one that kind of brought me back to this. It's happened before. After the El Nino in 2015, we had March. He's the first person that brought that up to me and also pointed out that we will see a cooling trend after this peak. Now, he was absolutely correct. I just didn't know how much of a cooling that we were going to see, so I thought I'd pick something safe, like somewhere in the 0.65. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we cannot assume, and this is huge, and I want people to really pay attention to this because the climate change alarmists are getting quiet right now because they're dealing with other things, which is fine. But at 415 parts per million, in February's temperature came in at 0.76 above baseline. And then in 2016, February's temperature came in at 0.86, but CO2 levels were at 405 parts per million, approximately. So once again, the CO2 argument is irrelevant. And we really can't, this to me is a decent amount of proof that shows that CO2 is still rising and yet we're still cooling. And I'm sure Dr. Roy Spencer will write up a little bit more thorough report on his findings on these temperatures. But I thought I'd share that just in case if you got someone at work, maybe they follow the CO2 stuff and you show them this temperature like, oh, look at that. Well, CO2, we shut the world down and the CO2 stopped and the temperatures went down. No, you can tell them now, or at least point them into our direction. We can explain why the temperatures had dropped, and it had nothing to do with CO2 at all. In fact, this is just part of what we were expecting from this part of the cycle. Now, I don't think anybody expected it to drop that much, but nonetheless, it did, and there was some colder weather in March in parts of the world than we'd seen in earlier parts of the winter. So check it out at thegrandsolarminimum.com. And speaking of Scott Rose, Mari was kind enough to post this up here. And here's what he says. He says, let's talk about how cold the Arctic is. We are currently 0.72 degrees below baseline. The Arctic has not been this cold since the 2005 La Nina, and it's doing it without a La Nina. And I want to stop right there. By the way, some are suggesting that we are heading into a La Nina by early fall, mid-fall of 2020. So this should be interesting. But we're coming out of the Arctic winter. Now the higher step at negative 0.5 claimed by AGW alarmists in the Arctic departure database has been violated, which puts us back into the range of what has been normal since 1979 when records started. In fact, the only time we have a cone out of range that the 1979-1981 volatility was set during 2016, which again, we're talking about 2016, that strong super El Nino, and that was the reason why we were out of that median, which makes you wonder perhaps that the range just wasn't large enough. We also have the northern hemisphere snow mass still holding above the normal peak for the dead of winter. The downtrend since 2016 Super ENSO is still holding as we inch closer to the GSM. Yes, indeed, Scott. Inch indeed. I've always said this. We don't go into this cooling phase like that. It's time consuming. It's days and days and days of small data that add into this factor. But once again, and I'm sure other folks out there that saw this coming as well, but shout out to Scott. Thank you very much for being a contributor to the channel as well. We got a lot going on. Mari also, you guys need to actually, before I'm not going to read the article real quick, but check out, because we're getting ready to talk about some events coming up here in the month of April. And Mari, decent article here. You guys need to check this out. Could new comet bring doom? And on top of all the activities that I'm getting ready to go over with you here, Mari has a little write-up here, Comet Atlas C 2019 Y4. But also, April to treat stargazers to first meteor shower in months and these other celestial events. The first one is going to be the super pink moon, which is April 7th through the 8th, also called the fish, egg, or sprout moon, moon of Pergi. Time of maximum fullness varies with viewer location, and that is just absolutely stunning. The moon will be the main feature in the night sky during the first full week of April, as it will be the biggest and brightest supermoon of 2020. That's what I'm talking about. Get it right out of the way, right off the bat. That's good stuff. The second one, the Lyrid meteor shower, which will happen between April 21st through the 22nd. Be a nice little birthday present if my son can actually get out and see that at night. April 22nd is known around the world as Earth Day, and global event will kick off with a light show from Mother Nature as the Lyrid meteor shower reaches its peak. This is the first major meteor shower since January and will bring 15 to 20 shooting stars per hour on the night of April 21st into the early hours of April 22nd. This year will be a particularly good year for Earth Day meteor showers as it occurs on a moonless night, meaning darker skies for onlookers. So that is perfect, guys. And then Comet Atlas, say that. This is the one that we're going to be able to see with the naked eye. A newly discovered comet will soon make a splash in the night sky as it grows brighter throughout April, potentially becoming bright enough to be seen with the naked eye by the end of the month. Now, Comet Atlas, also known as Comet C 2019 Y4, was discovered on December 28, 2019, by astronomers using the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS, in Hawaii. It is still too dim to see without a telescope, but is expected to get much brighter in the coming weeks. So this will be really cool to see too. And then AccuWeather lists off some stuff that happened back in March. Guys, check that out. Thanks to AccuWeather.com. All right, let's get into another interesting article here. Rainforest once existed in Antarctica. And this also article was on weather.com as well. And I'm just going to read the abstract, but this is pretty neat stuff, guys. It's something I thought maybe I'd like to pass along. The correlation I'm really trying to poke at here is that this is talking about some soil sediments from the west part of Antarctica. And also, if you guys will remember, the southernmost western part of Antarctica, which is where they pulled this soil sediment from, was also where we had that huge temperature anomaly this year at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, everybody was freaking out like, oh my God, the world's melting and 65 degrees in this part of the Antarctica is unheard. No, it's actually happened before and happens quite a bit, actually. But anyway, here's the abstract. The mid-Cretaceous period was on one of the warmest intervals of the past 140 million years, driven by atmospheric carbon dioxide levels around 1,000 parts per million by volume 6. And the near absence of proximal geological records from the south of the Antarctic Circle, it is disputed whether polar ice could exist under such environmental conditions. Here we use a sedimentary sequence recovered from the West Antarctic Shelf, the southernmost Cretaceous record reported so far, and show that a temperature lowland rainforest environment existed at the Paleotude about 82 degrees south during the Turion-Santonian age, 92 to 83 million years ago. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. This record contains an intact 3-meter-long network of situ fossil roots embedded in a mudstone matrix containing diverse pollen and spores. A climate model simulation shows that a reconstructed temperature climate at this high latitude requires a combination of both atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations of 1,100 to 1,600 parts per million by volume and a vegetated land surface without major Antarctic glaciation, highlighting the important cooling effect exerted by ice albedo under high levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. I also want to note that this paper states that the average temperature of the ocean at that time, listen to this, coming in at a balmy, wait, I want to be sure I'm telling the right story here. Hang on. I saw it earlier. Oh, where did it go? Well, cinnamon pickles. Can't find it. Cinnamon pickles. I can't curse on the air. This is a family show. We can't curse.
It's a new one.
Yes, it is a new one, isn't it? Ah, here we go. Maybe it's up here. No. Yes. So sea surface temperatures during that time were possibly as hot as 95 degrees Fahrenheit. And the ocean level was at 558 feet higher than it is presently. So cool little read there. All right, on to some flooding news. And I've got quite a, well, you know, we had some news on Monday and we had news on Friday about flooding and flooding everywhere. And Cleveland had a 100-year flood. And here we are now in Peru. Heavy rains since March 28th have been hitting the department of Huánuco in central Peru, leading to flooding and landslides. The severe weather disrupted lives in the area, partially or totally damaging hundreds of properties. Now, according to their National Institute of Civil Defense, floods and mudslides have resulted in 30 destroyed buildings, including houses, a church, and a bridge. 80 more homes sustained damage in the district of Maranhão province. There was also interruptions of drinking water and power supply. Affected families were relocated to safe areas and relief goods were also distributed. Local streams burst as well following days' heavy rainfall. Meanwhile, another landslide occurred on March 30th in San Rafael District. Ambo province authorities have stated cleanup operations will help with heavy machinery. And it's just every time we go on the air live, we have this really big flood and pushes all this debris around. And really the cleanup is awful from these severe flash floods. More flooding, severe flooding. I'm not going to read a lot about this. More of the same. Major flooding continued in parts of Iran this week, with at least 19 provinces badly affected since late February. Inundations have caused damages worth of hundreds of millions of dollars. More buildings sustained damages both in rural and urban areas. 4 additional deaths were confirmed. Meanwhile, Iran is also grappling with the biggest desert locust invasion in the last 50 years. The Ministry of Agriculture Jihad announced that it caused damages worth of $120 million, that's US dollars, to the agriculture sector. In Fars, the damages cost more than $50 million. Access roads in 130 villages, mostly in the south, have been closed. More video footage, more rain. The crazy part, the locust thing too. Hail, more rain, more floods. See if we can talk about the locust real quick, because that's been brought up several times. Meanwhile, Iran is under the biggest desert locust invasion in the last 50 years. According to the UNOCHA, 6 provinces in southern Iran have been affected by swarms of desert locusts in the area of around 111,000 acres. Hatchings in southern provinces are expected to increase for the great amount before the summer, if not effectively managed. For instance, it is forecasted the number of hatchings in Boshur province could reach up to 800 billion from 2 billion as of March 15th. The president there said his government will provide the required facilities and credits for producing pesticides to prevent pests and grasshoppers in the conserved provinces. Well, that's great there, President Rouhani, but they're not trying to fight off pests and grasshoppers. They're trying to get rid of the locusts. So, yeah. Anyway. Moving along here, hundreds of homes destroyed as severe flash floods hit Afghanistan. So, Peru, Afghanistan, Iran. I'm sure there's more. I think there was actually, yes, Indonesia. I was working on a report earlier today. They also have been affected big time by flooding. Hundreds of homes destroyed as severe flash floods hit Afghanistan has resulted in at least 11 fatalities and hundreds of buildings partially or completely damaged, said the country's Natural Disaster Management Authority, and said that on Tuesday, March 31st. According to the spokesman for the Ministry of State for Natural Disaster and Humanitarian, at least 11 died and 15 others were injured. Around 288 houses were totally destroyed, 400 were partially damaged, and 30 mosques were hit as well. The waters ravaged some 1,236 acres of land. And here are some photographs. This looks a lot like what we were seeing and also in Indonesia as well. In the Ceylon district of Parwan province, a private power company said some of its power stations and facilities have been struck by floods. One of the station has already been entirely damaged. The company's employees have been deployed to the cities to restore these stations. The power towers in Ceylon are considered the main electricity provider for the entire country. We also see people wearing masks as well. So it's, you know, in Iran, you're dealing with COVID-19, locust invasion, and flooding. You come out here to Afghanistan, and you're dealing with COVID, flash flooding, landslides, and COVID-19. I think I already said that. So everywhere that we're talking about, these people that are displaced, these people that don't have shelter now, it really puts a perspective on about this whole stay-at-home thing. We have it great. We have it great, guys. Think about it. Power's on, water's on, cable's on, internet's on. You got food in the house. You can get food. You can get water. We go through a natural disaster, and you know, the best we can hope for is shelter immediately. There's countries out there that don't have that kind of assistance. And my heart just breaks, especially at a time like this. Let's take a look at some weather here, guys. Winter storm warnings in effect across northern U.S. as April begins. I said it. Forecasters say the snow across the Rockies and northern plains into Thursday will be no April Fool's joke from Mother Nature, as treacherous travel will be possible on the roadways. The wintry scenes will come as Storm Sister ushers in unseasonably cold air across the northwestern tier of the country. Temperatures will dip as much as 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit below normal for the first days of April. And that is in, of course, Billings, Montana, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Rapid City, South Dakota, and Bismarck, North Dakota. Winter storm warnings were dispersed across stretches of Wyoming, Montana, and the Dakotas on Wednesday, with winter weather advisories and winter storm watches covering much of a large area over Idaho and western Minnesota. Idaho, as you know, just dealt with a 6.5 earthquake. Now you get snow. And by the way, this is going to be a widespread 3 to 6 event, not that really big of an event, but 3 to 6 inches for most parts. Some localized areas could expect 6 to 10, but we're not really calling for a big-time snowstorm here, folks. With temperatures falling rapidly during the passage of the cold front, snow will begin to accumulate in many places from Wyoming and northern Colorado into North Dakota and into the Canadian prairies. One wave of snow is forecasted to sweep through Montana into northern North Dakota, Saskatchewan, Manitoba into Wednesday evening. The second wave of snow will then blossom further south over Wyoming on Wednesday night, swing northeastward through the northern plains into Thursday night. AccuWeather meteorologists expect widespread of plowable snowfall across the region with an AccuWeather storm max of, yes, 14 inches, where the heaviest snow falls. At this juncture, the AccuWeather local storm max is most likely to be achieved in portions of Wyoming, South Dakota, and eastern Saskatchewan, and western Manitoba. I'm sorry, I'm not Canadian. Whilst, but I do like their,
we love Canadian.
I like their syrup.
There's a lot they
got. Syrup, they got smart people.
They're our neighbors, and we love Canadian.
And look, they know they're survivalists too. You know, that's a very widespread area.
We had Toronto as neighbors, and being out here, we got Montreal as neighbors.
But it's more rural up in Canada, so those people are real true. Survivalists.
They got ketchup chips. They got poutine.
That's what you're gonna bring up is ketchup chips.
All of it.
Chips?
They got great stuff. I'm very upset the borders are closed to non-essential ketchup chip transport.
There's a lot of phases of the storm, guys. Freezing rain on Thursday and Friday. Here you go. Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, and yes, that is Nebraska. Parts of Nebraska, that is. Iowa as well. Snow by the time we get through this on the back end. So what's that mean up here, guys? See all the ice and the snow, and it's only April 1st. So we really just started to get into the whole idea of we're getting in that process of starting to plant or thinking about the plant. And I don't really have a crop report just yet, but I thought it was at least appropriate to bring up the snow depth and the soil temps. And if you guys see here in the northern plain states, nothing's going to be put in the ground right now, obviously. We got freezing rain and snow in this region again, so we're going to be covered in snow and ice. Obviously, nothing's going up here. And then you've got this blue shade right here, this light blue shade. Wheat can actually develop into these kinds of temperatures. So if you're a wheat farmer, whatnot, okay. And then you get in a little bit more, an area where we can see some growth for corn. But really, the best part, if anyone's getting any work done, is going to be right here in this dark green belt right here. Southern Tennessee, northern parts of Arkansas, southern parts of Arkansas as well. Now, why am I not really talking about the South and their crops? Well, they're getting a lot of rain. So it's very, very, very wet. And we'll talk about that here in the GFS just in a quick second. But I wanted to point that out because I thought that was important. And then also looking at the drought monitor. Not much of a drought situation at all, especially for the Midwest. This right here, we're saturated. From here on over, we are saturated. And maybe this is just a coincidence too, but this is also this area from here all the way to the Mexican border and all the way to the east is where the heaviest COVID breakout is right now. So very ironic. There's more moisture. It's a lot wetter over here. Everything's a lot different as far as temperatures, up and down weather. And yeah, but anyway, so from here on out, no drought, no worries. West Coast, not really that bad either. This is just abnormally dry to moderate in some areas, and maybe, severe drought, maybe in some localized spots, but nothing real crazy here. It's expected right down in this area to be dry. So I guess what I'm saying is let's get a look at the GFS and find out what kind of weather. We already know that up here is going to be too cold soil temperature, so forget about whatever happens up here. This area right here is what we want to watch and what we want to stay dry, right in here. So let's see if our forecast will cooperate with us on this. And here we are already with rain on Thursday. So Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, rain, rain, rain. Minnesota, wet and soggy and cold and snowy and icy in the northern plains, just like we talked about. And then more rain developing in Texas, moving across Louisiana. Some parts of the south will see some moderate rainfall after one system leaves on the 6th. Another one forms. This one attacks more of the Ohio River Valley, Tennessee, Kentucky. And the tail end of that, you'll see a lot of rain through Houston and Dallas, parts of Arkansas. And then we get rain into the northeast as well, starting with the Great Lakes by Wednesday, April 8th. So it's really kind of a non-eventful thing here going on in the northeast and the east coast. And then we get some rain here, the second week of April. Lots of rain from the northeast, snow for you in Maine. Watch out, Cheryl. And then April 9th, we have a system developing in the south, more rain across the south, high pressure across the plain states, but temperature is not really the best. But again, we have some dry weather, and that doesn't last too long, though. We have a pretty big low pressure system moving up from the Gulf, heading into the Midwest, into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio Valley, heavy rain and possibly some severe weather possible for those in the far south. But heavy rain for the Ohio River Valley and into the northeast by that Saturday, April 11th. And look at this, April 12th, we're still talking about snow showers and freezing temperatures in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Idaho. Parts of Wyoming even. Hell, the northeast corner of Nebraska looks like it's going to get some snow showers. Parts of Kansas could see flurries on Sunday, April 12th. As this system finally moves on up into Canada, more rain across the south, more snow and cold weather April 13th for the northwest and the northern plains. Snow again for you in Minnesota, April 14th. More snow and rain back in the northwest developing in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana. Heavy rain in the south along the Gulf Coast states. This is the 14th. More rain across the Ohio River Valley, more rain in the south, more heavy snow for the Dakotas and Montana. Good grief. And then that snow system will move into the northern part of Minnesota. More rain to the Ohio Valley, into the northeast. After that one side of the storm goes through, round 2 comes right back on April 16th, moving through the northeast and the Ohio Valley, reaching all the way really to Texas, El Paso. As that system moves through, it will also bring in a cold front for April 17th. Dry weather will be expected after this last big storm on the 16th of April. So we get 2 high pressure days that last for dry weather for about 3 days on each side of it. But it's going to be rain in the south, rain in the northeast, rain in the Ohio Valley, snow in the northern plains in the northwest, and rain. Sounds like April. Not really. Sounds like March, actually. Let's take a look at the temperatures real quick. Yeah, not that great. Not that awful either. Let's back it up here and take it all the way back. So here are April 1st. Not a bad day for most of us here in the United States. Cold in the northwest. Some decent temperatures coming your way. Ohio by Saturday, April 4th. Open the windows, get some air circulating in these houses, guys. Very, very important, I think. Milder weather expected across the weekend in the south, and then it kind of heats up a little bit along the east coast, starting to feel like it's going to warm up, and then there comes the cold weather again on April 9th. It starts to come in and pushes it down south, the heat going back on the east coast. Guys, on April 8th, look at this. Ohio is going to be beautiful outside. Indiana, beautiful. Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri. And then we get into the 10th, and then here comes more of that March-like weather. 40s across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Iowa. Upper 30s in parts of the Dakotas and Nebraska. Yuck. 50s and 60s mixing out to the plain states. Still chilly, though, in the northeast and the northwest, bringing in teens and 20s for high temperatures by April 11th. Negative temperatures could be reaching in some higher elevations, too, in this region. Guys, look at this. These are overnight lows, obviously. This isn't daytime highs. Still pretty daggone cold for April 12th. 21 degrees in parts of Iowa. Daytime highs in the 30s and 40s. Trying to warm up again from the south, moving north. And then another cold front is working its way in by look at that. We get a little bit of a ridge. Nice little warm spell here. Ohio Valley, the mid-Atlantic states, getting the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then by the 16th, after that low pressure system drags off to the coast, it pushes all that warmer air down south, bringing in colder air from the north, and temperatures will flatten out once again. And folks, I mean, daytime highs for April 17th, 64 degrees in the central part of Arkansas is phooey. I've lived in the south. Central Tennessee would be normally in the 80s right now for this time of year. So I'd say most areas are going to be looking at temperatures about 10 to 15 degrees below average for the most part here towards the end of April as well. And which we are seeing some factors of cooling already. UAH coming in at 0.48. It'll be interesting because looking at this weather map here, I'm not convinced that we're having a mild spring at this point just for certain select areas. But for the most part, and what's concerning is that we talk about that the possibility of a certain virus that could die in 84-degree weather. Well, guys, if you look at this temperature map, we're just not looking at too many days in the 80s in a big part of the country. Texas, Florida, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, and North Carolina, you guys all have shots of making the 80s possibly 2 or 3 times over the next 16 days. If that. We're pushing it. So we could use the cooperation of the warm weather here to help with this. Let's see if that helps as well with the spread. Mari, would you like to say good night or hello or
hello.
Whatever it is we're doing?
Good night. Hello and good night.
Good night and hello.
Well, Doug got his GSM bikini. You know how he's always wanted that bikini, and today's the day. He got it, Jake.
Who?
Doug.
Doug got his kini?
Yeah, and to celebrate, he did a super chat. He says April Fools.
Yeah, he didn't get it.
Thanks, Murray and Jake. He didn't get his. He needs it. We have to make that happen. Would you? I maybe sending him 2 stickers just to put on his nipples.
Well,
I think that would probably be the best thing.
You know, he was talking about bikinis on WTF Sky the other day, so maybe we can make him a WTF Sky mankini.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You thought of that, did you?
No.
That's right. That's what I'm here for.
Wow.
All right. Hello.
So I was just asking, I'm pretty sure it was Tugta who said that her mom was in like a nursing care facility, and okay, they recently had a COVID patient removed from that facility, and so far her mom is good, but they did remove the COVID patient from that facility, so that's good. Good to hear. Cheryl definitely wants us to give Doug that. All right, Doug, will you send us a picture if we do that? Just let us know in the chat. Oh. Matt liked your Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. I don't.
That was probably the worst blunder ever, Jake.
Well, just call me Joe Biden. Okay, Matt.
Can you do any Joe Biden like imitations?
No, I'm working on it.
Oh.
I am working. I'm going to work on a Joe Biden. I'm trying to perfect my Trump, and I don't want to piss anybody off.
Are
so.
you going to show everyone what your facial hair looks like? Or are you just not going to get the camera?
No, that's for home only. So it's ridiculous. I did it for the kids.
He has a monkey tail.
I just said it was for home, and what do? You tell everybody I have a monkey. What's a monkey tail?
You know what a monkey
Mari,
tail is.
why don't you get back in the kitchen? Why don't you get back in the kitchen and make me a sandwich? How about that? All right, guys, look, you got to find ways to have fun when you're all cooped up with the family, or they'll just drive you crazy. Anyway. Mari, was that all you had?
19 days.
19 days. It's been longer than that.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
No, it's been longer than that. All right, is that anything Anything else important to pass along?
I think that's it. We're going to try to do, I know I'm going to at least try to get more content on the website. I put a couple things out. I'm trying to revitalize that. I know knife collectors will be happy to hear that. I did approve a bunch of memberships. Typically, I don't have to approve them. When you sign up on our website, it does send an email with a link for you to activate it automatically. So if you're not getting that email, it might be in your junk mail. And if I catch it, I'll just activate it. So that's all.
But yeah, definitely more content. Mari put up about 3 articles today. I actually got a wild hair up my kazoo and wrote one as well. And I forgot how much fun it was.
We're starting to sound like old, like I don't even know what you call us with these cinnamon pickles and... Gosh diggly dang.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with another Grand Solar Minimum news update. Until then, we hope everyone stays safe, and we will talk soon.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.